We are live, and it is day 14. This is A Mind of Valor. I am Westerfield Tolbert. Thank you for joining me on this 30-day journey. I can't believe we made it to day 14. I'm excited. I hope you are just as excited as I am. I am pretty proud that we've gone this far. Just a testament to discipline and consistency and what can happen when you commit to a particular process and you are dedicated to an ultimate goal. Over the last couple of days, we've been talking about different topics, everything from reciprocity to attitude, the language that we use, our resolve, our values, our vision, and our vices, just to name a few. And we're talking about the mind and mind in need of discipline. Now, for today's topic, I want to dive into relationships because we are all in relationship and always in relationship. And so it's very important that we recognize what that looks like and how relationships do affect our lives. Therefore, I'm going to my trusty Merriam-Webster dictionary once again, just to read the definition of relationship and allow it to initially frame this conversation. So let me see. Where was I? Relationship. Okay. According to the dictionary, the state of being related or interrelated. The relationship connecting or binding participants in a relationship, kinship, between those having relations or dealings, romantic or passionate attachment. Self-explanatory enough, would you say? Now here's where it gets a little bit more complicated, because we have relationships and then we have relationships. Well, trying to be a little funny there, but really, I think that the first relationship I want us to consider this evening is the relationship that we have to ourselves, with ourselves. The second, a relationship we have within our families and then communities. And I always stress community because community that we trust and that we allow in and that we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with are some of the highest level of relationships that we can ever ask and pray for. Those spaces where we feel safe, where we can be ourselves, where we don't have to put up a facade, where our best selves can shine. Relationships and question asking and how relationships tie into asking better questions. Ultimately, the questions that we will be asked, the questions that we will ask, and the relationships that we have are just pieces of a greater puzzle, and we are missing out on opportunities to build strong relationships if we are limiting ourselves. A couple days ago, we talked about attitude and going into spaces feeling like we are deserving of certain things, feeling like we are worthy of certain things, such as relationships, feeling like that we may or may not be worthy of quality relationships, or that we may or may not be worthy of having relationships that push us to the next level. And what does that mean to be in relationship with people that can push us to the next level? People that we would trust to be vulnerable with, to let our guards down. People that we would not just call associates, but friends, family, and how that plays a part in our lives. So I don't have any cute stories about relationships right now, but I would just like to take us take yourself back to a time. Think back to a time when you were in relationship with someone that you trusted, that you were allowed to be vulnerable with, a relationship where you were being held accountable at a high level, a relationship where safety was a priority, a relationship where you felt seen, where you felt heard, you felt valued, a relationship where you acknowledged that the foundation was strong, a relationship that pushed you. Now, counter that and think about a relationship where you didn't feel safe, a relationship where you didn't feel valued, a relationship where you didn't feel like those people or persons were, or you didn't trust them enough to allow them to hold you accountable, or a relationship where you were constantly on guard. Looking at those two scenarios, in which environment did you thrive? In which relationship did you see yourself thriving and performing as your best self? Those type of relationships mean the world to us because they make that experience more than what it is on the surface. It's like finding a stone or a geode and you crack it open only to find crystals inside. It's an instant degree of joy, pleasure, and satisfaction, like you've won a prize. And that's what a good relationship will do. It will make you feel like you have won a prize or are the prize. A relationship where communication is important to the other person as or more important to you and how you orient to that relationship. A relationship where communication is preeminent and both people value communication at the same level. So when they engage in that relationship, that compound experience is better for both people. We have relationships with our coworkers, our parents, our children, our teachers, and every relationship has a different place and holds a different degree of value and merit. But regardless of the title, all those different relationships will have an effect on our well-being, on our mindset, on what we think is possible and what is capable. Relationships are impacted by how we came up, how we were brought up, how we were in relationship with our parents and our siblings and our family, impact how we will be in relationship with our partners, our friends, and so on and so forth. It is acknowledging that we've come from some place and we're moving towards something else that is supremely important for us to be asking better questions about. For example, when we think about our romantic relationships and things that trigger us or expose our traumas, how often are we going back and asking ourselves questions about our upbringing or experiences that we had and how unhealed events from the past are bleeding their way into the current relationships or have the potential to negatively impact future relationships? So this idea of asking tough questions or better questions goes back to how we've been in relationship before, how we learned about having healthy relationships, how we model relationships that we've seen, and how we model relationships for other people. For example, the relationship that we're modeling a relationship that we learned from our parents, and our children are modeling after us. What healthy communication looks like, what patience looks like, what respect looks like, what boundaries looks like. And a relationship of any kind isn't a healthy relationship if there aren't healthy boundaries. But you have to know what your boundaries are, and you have to be willing to ask those questions about the people that we are in relationship with, or at least get to know them to a degree so that you can understand what healthy boundaries are. I don't think you can really be in relationship with another person without knowing what constitutes um, a healthy boundary for them or for yourself. If not, you'll just kind of be oscillating back and forth until something happens. When something happens, it's often a climactic event that just reveals that there weren't enough boundaries in place in the first place. So then you have to dial back, and you're trying to retroactively repair something that, had you taken the time to ask those questions in the beginning, then you could have created a plan, or learn to communicate, or learn to facilitate their, so you're not intentionally disrespecting someone or intentionally stepping or treading on those boundaries. Relationships only work with a high aptitude for communication and emotional intelligence. I would say that the relationship that you have with yourself, if it is healthy and you feel safe in your own skin and feel comfortable in your own skin, can only be beneficial to the relationships that you'll have that involve people outside of your head in your household. Relationships go a long way towards maintaining a healthy identity. How we relate to those around us can really, be detrimental if you're not grounded properly, or if you haven't put boundaries up to safeguard yourself. How we relate to ourselves and ideas and to the world around us is impacted by, let's look to our list, our ability to respond to external stimuli. How responsive we are to the people that we are in relationship with is crucial. If I call you in an emergency, but you don't take the words that I'm giving you seriously, you'll brush it off. And that right there means you're not going to be responsive. And that right there tells me that that's not a healthy relationship. If the tone of my voice, the inflection, or just me saying I need help is not sufficient, then that relationship, again, is not one that is sufficient or healthy. We talk about aptitude, or our attitude, how we view relationships, how we value people. Are we only in relationship to get what we want from someone and then move on to the next person? Or are we in relationship to have some reciprocity with somebody else so that we're both growing at the same time, and there's some congruency there? We think about our vices. How are our vices impacted by our relationships, and vice versa? Are we in relationship with people who are interrogating our vices, or are we in relationship with people who are supporting our vices, propping up our vices, supplying our vices? What does that look like? Are we in relationship with people who have a shared vision? Are we in relationship with people who have a shared trajectory, or aptitude, or see? These are a lot of questions that we have to ask of ourselves and the people that we are choosing to be in relationship with. Often, a lot of relationships just are by happenstance. You met someone, you might have had one or two things in common, and it just kind of rolled over and just kept rolling. And then you guys are in a loop. And then 6 years later, you guys are just in this loop. And then one person snaps out of it. And it's like, why am I in this particular relationship? It doesn't satisfy, bum, 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 and bum. And they start listing things off. That was 6 years of an investment that you can't get back as far as time and love and labor is concerned. But I say that to just bring us back to the significance of relationships and how they interact or how they play out in our everyday lives, and to encourage you to put more stock and more time and effort into building healthy relationships and understanding before you go into a relationship what you need, what you value, and what the other person in that relationship needs and what they value, and their vices and their experiences and their traumas. All these different notions that, when not taken for granted or when not thought about or considered or and taken for granted, can have detrimental effects to you, the individual, or the other person. An individual could be a person could be wonderful. They could be awesome, great person, but that does not necessarily mean they ought to be in relationship with you, and vice versa. Think about that. All things being equal, a person doesn't have to be a effed up type of person for them to be bad for you. You all just can be uh, not of like mind, right? Or a relationship that is just so easy and so casual that it doesn't push you or propel you. So you look at something like that, then you just have two people who have decided to how do I want to say this? Accept mediocrity, perhaps, and not aim for higher. Relationships that push us, strengthen us, and they reveal the best parts of ourselves, and also expose those parts of ourselves that we sometimes try to hide away. Once again, a good relationship, a positive relationship, a trusting relationship, one that is worthy of your time, will help you reveal your blind spots without putting a hammer to you, you know? And what I mean by putting a hammer to you is like help you grow by exposing certain things and not just thinking that you need to be um, chiseled, or, or like some steel that needs to be hammered, and you're a little too delicate for that. So you got to be in relationship with people who understand you're delicate and can appreciate that and can respect that. But do you even know how delicate you are, or do you recognize what your needs are in relationship? Can you honestly say that you know what you need from every relationship that you have around you, or that you fully appreciate what is being exchanged in every relationship that you have? Or are you just going with the motions? You can go with the motions for a long time. If you put a leaf on a running river, it'll flow for a while. That doesn't mean that it is flowing in the right direction, or that the ultimate destination will be somewhere that the leaf can leaf. I don't know. I just want you to take the time, and as you're building up a mind of discipline and vision and ambition and leadership and love and organization and resolve, just resolve to have strong, healthy relationships that are based on authenticity and based in a place of mutual exchange and mutual growth, reciprocity, a relationship that is not just with enabling negative habits. It all makes a difference, and it all holds weight. And it is up to us to shape and form our relationships, because when just left to chance, there's no telling who you'll be in relationship with. Things to think about. I think I'll revisit this topic more in depth. There's some pretty cool relationship psychologists that I wouldn't mind bringing on to talk about this a little further, and just how relationships impact our everyday lives, and how the relationships that we have with our parents and community ultimately affect who we have the potential to become. I ask you, take every relationship serious, and we will be back to discuss more of A Mind of Valor tomorrow on day 15. Thank you for joining me tonight.